Let's add some cool custom items to Minecraft with Forge 1.17.1. Let's see how to do that. Alright, we find ourselves back in IntelliJ once more, and in this tutorial we're going to add custom items to Minecraft. Now this is actually going to be a fairly straightforward process, and I would say let's just start. For your convenience, of course, everything is linked in the description below, so you have a GitHub repository where you can check out the entire code as well as individual gists for each of the changes and each of the classes that we're going to create. So inside of our tutorial mod, we're going to right click, go to New, Package, and we're going to call this the item package. So just item, and then inside of that package we're going to create a new Java class that is going to be the ModItems class. If you have a GitHub repository set up, then it will ask you to add this file to Git. You will simply say yes. If you've not followed the GitHub repository part of the first tutorial, then you won't get that, but don't worry about that. It's not that important if you don't have it. Inside of this new class, we're now going to create the first thing that is a public static final and then deferred register. As you can see, I can autocomplete that by clicking the tab key, and then I need these angled brackets, and inside of that I need item. We need the item from net Minecraft world item. Very important that this is the correct one, and I'm going to call this items all in caps, and this is going to be equal to deferred register dot create forge registries dot items. I'm always just auto-completing with the tab key and then comma, and then it's going to be tutorial mod.modID. There you go. If anything is red here, so for example, tutorial mod might be red for you, something like this, then what you can do is you can simply click on it and press Alt and Enter, which will then import the class, and then everything should work. At the very bottom of the class, we will need a register method. So this is going to be a public static void register, and this is going to take in an event bus called event bus, and this will then do the following. It will do items.register event bus. And then let's quickly finish this, and then I'll explain what each of those things do. So in our tutorial mod class, inside of the constructor here, basically between the event bus and the add listener, we're going to now call ModItems.register, and we're going to pass in the event bus here. So this is very important, this step. This is definitely needed. And now I'm going to explain what each of these elements do. Now the deferred register, you can think of that as basically a list that Forge keeps track for us of what items we have actually created. This is basically just a list. Of course, it's a little more complicated than that, but you can think of that as a list where we're going to add different items to, and then Forge is going to sort of, set everything into place. It's going to be like, okay, this mod adds this item and this item and this item, and we're going to sort of shuffle it around. That's sort of happening in the background. So it's all abstracted away for us. We just have this list and we basically add items to it. This register method is needed so that Forge basically knows about this list. So this items.register with the event bus basically tells Forge, hey, this is a list of items from the tutorial mod. Make sure that those are actually added to the game. And this is why we need the register method here. So first of all, we're going to add one item, and then we're going to add a second item, because some people have been struggling with actually how to add a second item. And no worries, we're going to add one item. We're going to see if that works, and then we're going to add a second item. And then I will also give you another texture where you can try to add that item as well, if you so wish. How do we add an item? Well, we need to have a public static final and then a registry object. So registry object, as you can see, not registry, but registry object, very important, from net Minecraft Forge FML legacy. We can import that by pressing the tab key, and then we need angle brackets again and with item once more, and this is going to be the titanium underscore ingot, and this is going to be equal to items dot register, and then we will need a string. This is going to be a name. This bus, or as it's soon going to be called name, gets generated automatically, so you don't have to add that yourself. And then inside of the string here, we're going to write titanium underscore ingot and then a comma at the end. And then you can see this has changed to name now. Once again, you don't need to add that. That is added by IntelliJ on its own. And I will make a line break and then put in parentheses, open parentheses, closed, and then sort of this arrow here, and then a new item. And a new item is going to need item properties. So this is going to be new item.properties, so we can simply auto-complete that. If I now make a dot, as you can see, I have a few things that I can call here. So there's some durability that I can call. I can also add a food item. The thing that we want to add here is the creative tab. So we simply creative tab and just double click that, and then we're going to creative tab, creative mode tab dot tab MISC. So this is the tab where this item is going to be added. And then at the very end here, the line always needs to end with a semicolon. And now in theory, the item has already been added to the game. So it's already in game. However, we don't have a texture yet. And for that, we actually need to create some JSON files. Now the JSON files are all created in the resources folder. So in the resources folder, right click new directory assets. This is very important that this is written correctly. Make sure that there is no misspelling here. And then in the assets folder, a new directory called tutorial mod. This needs to be exactly your mod ID. Very important that this is correct. Once again, right click new directory. And then the first directory we're going to create is the lang directory, LANG. And inside of that directory, we're going to have a new file, en_us.json. Make sure that this is written correctly as well and has the .json ending. Now, what is this? The en_us.json is a translation file, which basically will translate the name of the item. So currently the name of the item would be item.tutorialmod, so our mod ID .titanium_ingot. So this is the name of the item currently in game, and we want to translate that. So what we're going to do is we're going to add curly brackets here, and then we're going to put in the key. So quotation marks item.tutorialmod.titanium_ingot, and then colon titanium ingot. So this is going to be the translated name in English in this case, and this is going to be the key. So the key usually is what is the type of thing that we've added, a block, a biome, an item, something like that. Then our tutorial mod, our mod ID, and then the name of the item that is supplied right here. We're only going to use the en_us.json translation here, but you can of course also add different languages. So for example, the German language would be de_de if I'm not mistaken, and so on and so forth. So that is something that you can also do as well. Once again, in our tutorial mod folder, right click new directory, and this is going to be models. Very important that this is models with an S, so plural, and then inside of that a new directory called item, this time singular. Very important as well. And inside of there, we're going to create a new file called the titanium_ingot.json. This is an item model JSON. I'm going to write this and I'm going to explain as I go along. So the first thing we're going to need is the curly brackets once again, and then a parent here with colon, and this is going to be the item/generated, and at the end a comma. Then we have textures, colon, and then curly brackets once again, and then a layer 0, colon, and then tutorial mod, colon, item/titanium_ingot. Okay, what is going on here? This is craziness. No worries at all. I'm going to explain part by part. So the parent basically specifies how the item or how the texture is being displayed. In our case, we're simply pointing to a normal texture PNG file, which is going to be called titanium ingot. So this is always the name of the file. This entire thing here is actually the directory. So we're going to take a look at an item folder, and this is going to be inside of a textures folder. Now the textures folder has to be located where this mod ID is. So inside of the tutorial mod folder, right click new directory, textures. So this is the textures folder here. And inside of that, it's going to look for an item folder. So item, once again, singular right here. And then it's going to look for a file named titanium_ingot.png. I'm going to quickly copy that over. So as you can see now, the item folder contains the titanium_ingot.png file. And this is exactly what this looks for. So as you can see, item/titanium ingot. This is this, and it's going to look in the textures folder for the tutorial mod. So I hope that that makes sense and that you sort of understand each of those parts individually and how they come together. And those JSON files need to be added for every item. However, when we add another item, I can tell you that it's very easy to simply copy over this JSON file or the contents of it instead of just writing it out every time. I will definitely not advise doing that, right? But for our one item, everything has been added. We have a translation, we have added the item model as well as the texture. So now let's see if it's in game and see if it works. Alright, we find ourselves in Minecraft, and let's see. So if I go into the miscellaneous tab and go all the way down, there you go. The titanium ingot has been added to the game, and I can throw it around. And as you can see, it is in game. It has a name and a proper texture as well. And now let's actually see how I would go about to add another item to the game, right? Like I've previously mentioned, some people have been getting a little bit confused. Okay, how can I now add another item to the game? Do I have to, copy the ModItems class again? No, none of that. The only thing that you're going to need is a new registry object. So what I tend to do is I tend to select this and copy it by pressing Ctrl C and then Ctrl V to paste it in again. Now we're getting an error here because they are named the same. Now this is going to be the titanium nugget actually, and we're going to change this in here as well. So that's very important that you always change the name, because if the names match here, then you're going to get an error and Minecraft is not actually going to start. Once that has been done, you can now go into the en_us JSON file and simply basically copy this. So you can duplicate this by pressing Ctrl D if you're on the same line. Don't forget to add a comma here, so those always need to be separated by commas. And then we can change it here as well. So nugget and then titanium nugget as well. There you go, easy enough. And we also need a new item model JSON. Now what we can do is we can simply drag this into the same folder while holding Control, and that will basically duplicate this file. We will then get this copy window here, and you can change the name here to nugget. So this once again has to be the same name that is supplied in the ModItems class. And then here we can change it to the different texture as well. There you go. And now I can copy over the nugget texture as well. I can say OK. And then the nugget has been added to the game as well. That's actually how easy it is to add another item to the game. And what I have for you is I have the raw titanium texture right here. So I have the raw titanium texture. And what you can do, sort of trying it out, is you can try and add the raw titanium to your game. So the completed code is in the description below. So in the GitHub repository and in individual gists, the raw titanium already has been added. So I'm not going to show that in the video here. However, you do have the solution in the description below. It should be fairly straightforward for you to do. I'm actually confident that you will be able to do it. You don't have to. This is not a requirement or anything. It's just a short little side thing that you might be able to try. Right, but that would be it for this tutorial right here. I hope you found this useful and you learned something new. If you did, I would of course appreciate a like, and I will see you in the next tutorial. So yeah.